Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, the Senior Bowl is finally done, and I got some thoughts.
And a big domino in the NBA fell, but will it have a trickle down effect in Atlanta?
And last but not least, and for the culture, CBS should be ashamed of themselves. Tisk, tisk, tisk. That's all next, right here on ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
First off, we want to say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you guys in advance. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on today to get started. Now, T, when you think about the Senior Bowl and how everything went down last week, me being down there, and the final score of the game was 27-10. You had quarterback Jake Rayner put on a nice little show because I wasn't too impressed about all the quarterbacks as a whole when I first got down there and starting to see those guys in practice, but they were finally able to get some things turned around. Rayner, that is, on Fresno State, leading the way in stats and doing this thing out there on the field, but I think the thing that really stood out to me the most is the fact that you had two guys from HBCUs, Isaiah Land and Aubrey Miller. Isaiah went to Florida A&M, who I got a chance to speak with, and that's on our audio feed as well, Locked On Sports Atlanta. Go ahead and subscribe to that bad boy. I promise you, I won't fault you for it for not doing it so already. And Aubrey Miller, now he's a linebacker coming out of Jackson State. Those guys got the shine on over the weekend. I think can be nothing but good for these young men as they get ready to go into the NFL.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to see Aubrey Miller up front and personal at the Celebration Bowl, and he had a really good game, and nothing different than what we had seen out of him the entire season. So not surprised that he showed up and showed out in Mobile last week. And we know it's not just about the game itself, but it's really about the practices and how you are impressing those scouts when they have those informal and formal conversations with you. And just like with our HBCU players that we really do think will actually take this to Indianapolis next month or later this month for the combine, and then hopefully you'll see them at the NFL draft. You got to say the same thing about the Dogs. They were very impressive in Mobile as well. Warren McClendon probably at the top of the list because just being able to gather himself and keep his mental together along with his physical. I'm sure his body's still recovering from what happened a couple weeks ago as well. But yeah, just really good to see him out there being able to probably work through some things and probably be motivated by what it is that his teammate wearing his number, Devin Willock, wearing his number out there, probably motivated by just doing what Devin would want him to do. So good luck for him. And just excited again, like you said, to see our HBCU players doing well and also to see those Dogs getting out there. But I wanted to particularly highlight Warren McClendon.
Yeah, to be honest with you, T, like looking at my 21-year-old self and having to go through something like that and to be right back at it, just saying, hey, I got to focus in. I got to lock in. I got to lock in for my people. You know what I mean? I think Devin would want me to do these type of things. And just from a strictly football standpoint, T, I love Warren McClendon's game. He's so smooth when you're talking about getting to his pass sets and he doesn't panic when he as an offensive tackle. And you see a lot of those guys do those type of things, especially when you got guys running 4.4 speed forward and you're trying to backpedal to keep up with them. Think about the difficulty of that. So yeah, when you have a guy who doesn't panic in those particular situations and showing that resolve, and it just kind of like transfers, right? That on the field kind of transfer off the field to kind of be able to deal with all these situations, being asked those questions. And, being down there, a lot of people weren't too excited about folks being so adamant about asking him about that because of the situation and what happened and what went down. But I have nothing but respect, salute to Warren for being able to stand up and answer those questions and keep it moving and still go out there and show it and do his thing.
Right. And I love the fact that Christopher Smith had an opportunity to show himself,
Yeah,
because I heard that he had an excellent, we'll say, workout at the Senior Bowl week, and
yeah.
also Kenny McIntosh, just to be able to show how diverse of a back he truly is. Because when you have a crowded running back room the way the Dogs do, this is your opportunity to shine.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about all the guys who've been drafted who have taken the handoff down in the red and black,
Yeah.
more than likely he's gonna get drafted and he's gonna do well. So
Yeah.
that's just kind of how it works when you're coming out of Athens at RBU. Now, T, with the Super Bowl it's going down this week. It's Super
Yeah.
Bowl
Wow.
week. Big media day is going down. The teams have landed. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. If you've been up on the rock and you don't know what teams are in there you go. Now, I think the biggest storyline for me, T, is not Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce brothers who are going to be quote unquote playing against each other, but both of
Right.
them will play offense. So,
Right.
but I think the main storyline for me is it has to be Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. They come from the same, they're cut from the same cloth. For those you don't know, they're African American, both of them. You know what I mean? So I think that's the biggest storyline for me, with the first time happening, and just being growing up as a football fan, I think where we are right now, like I'll never forget this statement from Charlie Ward, right? Because Charlie Ward, Heisman candidate, all world quarterback. For those you don't know, at Florida State, Heisman Trophy winner. The dude decided to go to the NBA because all of the scouts were telling him, you need to move to wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And to see now, here in 2023, we have Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, guys who probably could have been told to do the same thing if we hadn't take some necessary steps forward to say, hey, these guys can do this thing. But to see these guys in the Super Bowl and knowing where we came from, and then tell you how hell of an athlete he is. He went on to play in the NBA for 10 years, T.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the capabilities are there. And then for those capabilities to be looked at as assets versus liability, I absolutely love this storyline coming into this game.
I do too. And I believe they both have O-lines that are going to get down in the trenches and make sure that those other defenses, whether it's the Eagles trying to stop Patrick Mahomes or whether it's the Chiefs trying to stop Jalen Hurts, I believe their O-lines are really, really going to let them shine and show you everything that's in their arsenals. It's going to be fun. But yeah, I think that here you see players that really, and I'll tell you a story I heard a couple days ago, and I thought, oh, how cool is that? People pointed to, for a long time, the fact that Nick Saban took Jalen Hurts out of that championship game, and then Tua Tagovailoa won that game for Alabama over Georgia. Not saying that that's not the case, but a lot of people don't highlight the fact that Jalen Hurts basically was endorsed by Nick Saban and told, hey, I like to call them the quarterback whisperers, or the DB whisperers. Yeah. He said, go to Oklahoma. There's a quarterback whisperer over there. He can help you to get game ready, NFL ready. If you choose not to stay here, I understand. When you get Nick Saban's blessing, and then he tells you where to go, and then you become the Big 12, newcomer of the year, and then this is your trajectory in just 3 years. People forget. This guy's only been in this league for 3 seasons, and this is what he's able to do. And of course, Patrick Mahomes, 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. But we're not, to your point, just talking about Charlie Ward and the athleticism that he was only credited with. When you talk about Jalen and you talk about Patrick, you're talking about players that have it physically and mentally. They are gifted to play QB1 in this league. So very exciting.
Very exciting as well. And I think Nick Saban knows what he's talking about, because Jalen Hurts went on to win the Heisman Trophy the following year. So kind of lets you know, like, gives you a peek into like how things work. And a lot of people, Nick Saban gets a little, discredited sometimes for being able to run a machine over down there in Tuscaloosa. But hey, he understands the real, and I'm glad that he had a real conversation with Jalen, and Jalen made a sound decision based off of that. Now, I think,
just so that people don't come for us, we know that Jalen Hurts, we know he got the runner up or whatever. We get it. Behind Joe Burrow. We get it.
Yeah.
Don't okay?
Yeah.
Just so you people know.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's some good. And Joe Burrow had an amazing year that year. But yeah, Whew, goodness gracious. Anyway, breaking a lot of records down there at LSU. Now, I think speaking of big dogs, how about this? Kyrie Irving to the Mavericks. We'll talk about what effect that has on the Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference. But first, we got to talk about FanDuel. Because guess what, guys? The only app you need for the Super Bowl is FanDuel. And because we are really excited about them because they are our new sports betting partner for Locked On, because they're the number one sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy to. And here's the thing. Here's what you need to do. Here's what you guys need to do. Download FanDuel right now. And you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So yeah, got a little stipulation in there for you, just for you. Now, one thing that we always want to let you know that the FanDuel Sports app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/locked on to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/locked on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
And good luck figuring out which team to bet on. But what we know you did not bet on was the fact that Kyrie Irving was going to ask for a trade out of nowhere Friday. And then what you really probably did not bet on was that the Nets would come back just 48 hours later and say, okay, bye. And when they said, okay, bye, it wasn't with the team we all thought he was going to land with. And that, I think most people the betting folks were with the Lakers, right?
Yeah,
but he lands with the Mavs. He lands with the Mavs. And he, of course, it's literally like a haul. Like they're getting picks for days, 2027, 2029, couple of first rounders, a second rounder. They get Spencer Dinwiddie, which is not a bad one to get in that deal.
Not at all.
So yeah. So when you look at the haul of it, it's crazy. And you may think to yourself, what is the trickle down in the East? Well, think about it. Just this past summer, 6 months ago, everybody was having the conversation. And even before then, a season, a summer ago, summer, it's always pretty much been, where's KD going to land, right?
Yep.
And who could possibly get him? And let's be honest, that conversation was had down here. That conversation was indeed had down here. But didn't happen. But now, Jarvis, you're talking about when you look at the standings, this is going to have a potential effect on the Hawks because look, has not this race been like neck and neck other than of course the Celtics and Bucks? They've kind of been far and away the top cream of the crop for the East. Sixers have been falling off a little bit of late because they've been failing to close out games. Then you had the Nets right there, number 4, because of what KD did before he got injured and because of what Kyrie did to pick up the slack. Now, to me, Jarvis, that 27 and 27 that the Hawks have going on, that they are, continuing to show themselves as a 500 team. Well, now the plot thickens because this might have a positive trickle-down effect on what this means for the Hawks and their playoff aspirations. Not play in, play off.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you want to get into that 6th seed. That's the number right now. That you do not want to be in 8, 9, 10. Like you don't want to be in a situation where you probably have to go on the road in a one-off. And we all know how those games can go down. Like anything can happen.
Yeah,
Trey might all of a sudden get sick or whatever. Who knows? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like you can never know what can happen in those games. That was a joke, by the way, for those people who haven't picked up on that. But anyway, I think one of the things though, when you look at this Kyrie Irving trade is it kind of starts to make me think or feel that it may sway the Hawks one way or the other as far as, okay, now do, the Brooklyn Nets, do they, get into a space where they're trying to move and try to get to add more to try to make a push because they know they have Kevin Durant sold up for a couple more years he's under contract for a couple more years, or do they say, you know what, they want to get out ahead of this thing and say, Kevin Durant, we're going to move on because we know that you probably want to be out anyway as well. So it's just a lot of little moving parts, but I don't think that the last thought is going to happen within a few days because the trade deadline is on Thursday. So I don't think that that's going to happen right now. But as far as how the Hawks move, I think this is something they're gonna have to really have to come to Jesus moment, all
Yeah.
right? Because they've been hovering around 500, and
Mhm.
they're a middle of the road team. That's who they are. As
Yep.
we sit right here, 54 games in. So
Mhm.
and I think that they got to figure out whether or not they want to move on from certain guys whose names been dangled around. And I
Mhm.
start with John Collins because we
Yeah.
already know that's what it is,
Mhm.
and then Bogdan Bogdanovic as well. And some teams are going to call about him. But I think an insider said that half the league has called about Bogdan
Yes.
Bogdanovic. So that the plot is going to it thickens. It thickened
Yeah.
when Kyrie Irving got traded, and I think that
Mhm.
a lot of teams are going to start really mulling over some things, including the Toronto Raptors. Keep an
Yes.
eye on that team T as well. So I think the Hawks are going to have to really this new front office, this new regime that we
Mhm.
have that was forced upon us
Yeah.
with Nick Ressler and Landry Fields. Excuse me, I was about to say
Mhm.
the old assistant general manager back in the day, but I think this is going to be something that we're going to have to definitely keep an eye on because the Hawks are going to have to really figure some things out as
Mhm.
it gets closer and closer to the trade deadline.
Yeah, they definitely do. And yeah, that like you said, keeping the eye on the Raptors because OG Anunoby was one that I looked at for forever and
Ooh,
was
I
like, dang, we can't
love
get him.
him.
So,
I, what
yeah,
y'all want?
right. What do you want? But as far as here's the interesting thing as well.
Mhm.
If we're being real about it, you really need the four. That's where the challenge is because the power forward that you really want to complement a center like Clint Capella, John's just not that person. And that's
He's not.
okay because that
Yeah.
game could work for a lot of teams.
Yep.
Just don't know if that game kind of works for the Hawks and what they need out of
Mhm.
that particular big. And when you look down the possibilities of trade packages and trade pieces, most of those guys are threes. And I don't think the Hawks are in any conversations to give up DeAndre Hunter.
Nah.
There really
Yeah.
aren't a lot of fours. And it's an interesting back and forth about Jay Crowder, but for all intents and purposes, he's going with the Bucks unless something falls apart, right?
Right. Yeah.
So to me, then the question becomes, okay, in order to go after a power forward, which is really the only position that you need, well, what about that's where you say, what about KD?
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. You
Oof.
say that, right?
Oof.
Exactly. You say that not necessarily because you want to give up the kitchen sink because let's face it, Jarvis, like they would have to give up so much. And granted, he kind of flutters between small forward, power forward, and shooting guard for that matter.
Wherever he
But you can
wants,
sneak
yeah. Like
exactly, but you can
play any
sneak him into
position.
the forward. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can sneak him wherever the heck you want to, and he could do it. But then the question becomes not just for a Kevin Durant, but I think you make a great point, allowing Kyrie Irving to be traded, the possibility of KD saying I want out too, and what those factors will be. I think that'll be the interesting thing because it goes back to, okay, if John Collins, who does not have the value, you and I, we got a tip on that Friday.
Yeah.
An
Yeah.
insider told us, hey, he just doesn't have the value that he had a season or two ago. So if you're going to send him off, you better package, you better have a serious package deal. And Bogdan Bogdanovic isn't even enough in the package from what we're being told. So
Yeah.
that's why, yes, there may be some opportunity for the Hawks, but the moves may be small because I don't know that they really have, that they're willing to give up the pieces. And you know those pieces, Jarvis. We're talking about Onyeka Okongwu, DeAndre Hunter, AJ Griffin. Now, would they give up a Jalen Johnson? Yeah, but from what we're hearing and seeing, that package might not even be enough. The eyes are on AJ, Double O, and well, they know they can't have Dre. So, in all likelihood, you can
Yeah.
have Dre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for contract reasons as well, right? Because I think
Yes.
that's a piece that or
Oh,
factor that makes John Collins unattractive
no
to a lot
question.
of teams,
No
especially
question.
contending teams. So I think, but I think overall, I think you might be on to something when it comes to small moves. I think that's might be where they land,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that just not being a fit Collins that is as far as at that position because they need
Mm-hmm.
a guy that can roll and roll and roll in the
Yeah.
pick and roll and crash that lane and
Mm-hmm.
just bang. Like that's what they
Exactly.
need. They need
Yes.
that. They need
Yes.
somebody to bang right along with Clint Capella. And
Mm-hmm.
when he
Yes.
and be able to
Yes.
move down to the 5 when he's out
When he,
of the
yeah.
rotation. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that I saw that really stood out to me against the Denver Nuggets, right? It was in the
Mm-hmm.
second quarter, and
Yeah.
basically your only offensive option that they had on the court right now
Mm-hmm.
at that moment, excuse me, is the fact that was AJ Griffin,
Mm-hmm.
and I was looking at how John Collins was kind of struggling with the starting lineup, and as
Mm-hmm.
far as him getting involved, like I think Nate McMillan kind of really needs to reconsider this whole hockey line changing type substitutions and kind of match up
Yeah.
with teams on the thing
Yeah.
because Denver essentially had no one in the lineup that was
Yes.
doing anything. And I'm just like, dude, like you got a rookie that you don't like playing in big moments and basically a whole bunch of vagabonds, essentially, if I could use a chuckery expression. So, get your guy so you can get him involved. Like, and that's one thing kind of adjusting on the fly piece that I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Nate is missing when it comes
Yeah.
to these type of games. You essentially had a chance against a contender. Like this is a real contender. Nikola Jokic
Yes.
is amazing. Jamal Murray went dumb, dropped
Yes.
40 points on you.
Yes.
So like when they aren't in the game, that's when you need to take advantage. Like,
Yeah.
hey, JC, we're not gonna get you this 30 minutes, 35 minutes tonight. You'll probably have to play 40, bro, and
Yeah.
get in with this second unit so you can get involved and get
Yeah.
yourself into the flow of the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's the piece that's missing,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the whole rotational thing.
Yeah.
And I really feel like they had the opportunity to win that game,
Mm-hmm.
but you just didn't take advantage. Now they went on the
Yeah.
run after the fact and
Right.
got down to like 8 points or so.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But
Sure did.
it's just keep moments in the game where
Yeah.
they're not necessarily don't really show up in the stat sheet
Mm-hmm.
so much, but you have to be able to take those good coaches, really, really good coaches, the guys who are in tune with their guys. They
Mm-hmm.
understand like in certain moments, you kind of just
Yeah.
got to throw that whole minutes, rotational, all that stuff
Yeah.
got to go out the window. I'm like,
It
okay, you
does.
got to feel this thing sometimes.
Yeah. And that's such a great point because the last, I'd say 4 or 5 games, even within the winning streak, I
Mhm.
noticed that that's when teams were coming back on them
Yep.
because the Hawks had a pattern. We will have these 5, then we will have these 5, then we will have these 4, back to these 5. And it was like, because that's what the script
So
was before
robotic,
the
right?
game started, the Hawks
Yeah.
seemed, and Nate McMillan seemed like hell bent on keeping the script, whereas other teams were like, wait a minute, Trey's out for a minute. Oh, DJ's out. Oh, we're about to go on a run.
Let's
And
go.
that's when
Yeah.
teams would get us back. And then only one of those games did I say, okay, I'm impressed because Nate stopped the bleeding way early, where he
Mhm.
threw those starters back in and he was like, bump that, we're not doing that tonight. But yeah,
Right.
you make an excellent point. Got to have a little more flexibility and a little more fluidity on those rotations because other teams are taking advantage of the fact that the Hawks simply don't. But if you want to hear more about this story and not just how the Kyrie Irving trade potentially impacts the Hawks all over the East, all over the West. I mean, it's impacting everybody because there were teams that threw their names in the hat so fast and they were like, dang, like LeBron said, maybe it's
It's
him.
like that.
Right. He tweeted, maybe it's me. Maybe. Locked On Sports
Wow.
Today is going to let you know what they think, whether or not it was just something Kyrie was always going to do, whether or not LBJ was a part of the issue, or whether or not the Nets were just being petty and saying, haha, we won't trade you where you want to go. Find out by going to Locked On Sports Today. Of course, you can check them out on YouTube or wherever you download your podcasts. They also have Take of the Day. Who knows? Maybe they'll be giving you their thoughts on the Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes matchup and the historical perspective of it. Or maybe like we do in For the Culture, they'll just tell you about some, what is that term Jarvis just used? Some dumb things that happened in the Grammys. Don't forget,
Yes.
after ATL Day 1, check out Locked On Sports Today.
Absolutely. I love when Tenitra uses slang, especially my terminology, because I'm past slang. I don't even know what to refer to it as. Y'all can drop a name of what my lingo, kind of means to you in the comment section, because, I can just throw some random stuff out there and I'll make up my own language from time to time. Anyway, but this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get on the show. Today is no different. How about this? CBS deserves to be banned from airing the Grammys because like All right, so we got the 50-year tribute. Let me explain.
Yeah.
50-year tribute, of hip hop in the game, celebrating. It got everybody out here performing. It's going down. You got Rakim, you got Method Man, and then after they trickle down onto Atlanta and show the city a little love by bringing
Yes.
out Big Boy, dropping the ATLs in the joint. They don't cut the commercial T, and so we don't miss the whole Big Boy joint. So I'm like, help me figure this out. Like, why must we always fall short when it comes to Atlanta? You got the Super Bowl, and you got Adam Levine out here performing, which I don't like. Who is Adam Levine? I know you might say, yeah, he's a part of a big group that I can't even think of the name of right now, but I don't give a damn about Adam Levine. And if you doggone got Big Boy out here performing, I want to see Big Boy performing. T, what is going on?
I don't know, but you know what? Yeah, Adam Levine and Maroon 5 performed like
There you go.
Maroon
There we
4
go.
at
Yeah.
that Super Bowl, just keeping it real. But you know what? When my instant reaction, I had two. So the first reaction was, oh man, did I hit the remote by mistake? And maybe that's my fault. And then it went on to
Look at you
another
being all
commercial.
nice.
Yeah. And I was like, no, it's not me. So then I started scrambling. And you know where I scrambled while I was trying to figure this whole thing out? I got myself a Built Bar because I was like, I can't do this. Like, this is
Yes.
crazy. So that's what I do when I get a little nervous. I eat. I start snacking on stuff. And for me, being a hip hop head, that was the most important part of that show. So yeah, I had to get myself a Built Bar because, hey, it was still late at night and I wasn't about to eat up some calories. So I needed something that was kind of in that 150 calorie range and get myself a little bit of protein because I still have work to do late that night. So certainly it was a good look for me and keep them here so that I don't have to go to Walmart or Sam's Club. But hey, at least if I wanted to, I knew that I could get another almond bar or get another churro bar and be good with it. So if you guys get stressed out again like that, just really made me feel some type of way, definitely get yourself a Built Bar because that'll just ease all of your pain. And Valentine's Day is coming. That would be kind of cute, different to put in your Valentine's Day gift basket. But yeah, Jarvis, I couldn't believe when I got back to it because I tried on the app, I tried on YouTube, and once I finally settled down and took my little bite of the Built Bar and said, okay, I gotta get back to reality here. When I found out it was Big Boy,
Come on now.
Jarvis,
Come on.
I was hot. I was in here screaming. Oh my God. When I went back and looked at it, I was like, I know full well you already made me mad. Like the Grammys made me mad, but we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I want to know who in that control room got his walking papers or her walking papers last night. Because there's a way to recover from that. If you hit the wrong button or you go to commercial too quickly and you didn't do it. So by the time we got back, all we heard was 1/2 of a 16th of a 32nd of a bar from Busta Rhymes.
Right.
And he rhymes
By
so
the
quickly.
way,
Yeah. So like, how are we gonna? Yeah, you need all that time for
I didn't
him.
even know where he
and
was
no
in the
Big
verse.
Boy.
Like,
Right. I'm like,
I'm lost.
yeah. And then before I knew it, Busta was off the stage. I'm like, yes. Once again, Dirty South hip hop was disrespected by their own.
Once again, like, do I have to say it to you? Do I have to say it again? The
Go
South
ahead,
got
tell them.
something to say. Like, what
Yes.
are we doing here?
What are we? I mean, I had to it was a lot. It was a lot, but thankfully it was still an absolutely amazing performance. Just one of the best I have ever seen. Actually, I enjoyed the whole show. I'm just gonna be honest. I didn't turn away at all because I like different genres of music. So got to give them love for Bonnie Raitt. She did a great job with her tribute along with Sheryl Crow. That was one of my favorites. And of course, you all know I live, eat, sleep, breathe Mary J. Blige. So of course, I was over here acting a plumb fool to see my girl in all her glory. And I have to say that Quavo found such an amazing lane to be able to be that vulnerable and show that pain, even with no tears. You could feel it. It was palpable, but yet it was such a powerful performance along with Maverick City Music. Just a tremendous tribute to take off.
Absolutely. And I think that when you look at those type of collaborations, I think that's when the message gets spread, right?
Yes.
And that's what it's all about in that particular moment. And I think that, all of the other negativity that comes with that story when it comes to Offset and all that stuff and Jay Prince, Like
Oh gosh.
everybody, y'all need to focus on what
Yes.
Quavo did and what he was able
Yes.
to do, and
Please
kind of
do.
muster through and really just send a clear message about, hey, this is my brother, this is my
Mhm.
family, and stuff like that doesn't need to be, let me say, what's the word, broadcasted
Yeah,
negatively,
I
and I
agree.
think so. Yeah, I think that's the where we can kind of can leave it right there on that one. And
And I would, Jarvis, but Petty Tenitra just needs to say one more thing.
mhm.
How dare you leave out the queen bee? Somebody better tell me why I didn't see Lil Kim on that stage. Now I
Wow.
barely forgave you for not having Megan Thee Stallion because
Yeah,
Glorilla is too new to the game, and
yeah,
Megan
she's
has a
very new.
Grammy. So
Yeah,
I'm really that really bothered me. But for you to not have the queen bee,
maybe the
okay, y'all
check
didn't
went
want to
over,
rumble with the
Auntie.
bee. I want to
Check
rumble with
ain't
the
the
bee.
check ain't clear, maybe.
Yeah, I
Probably.
need to know. I want answers. But that's okay. I'm going to be researching this and I'm going to find out. Because as a hip hop
Absolutely.
head, I was watching with I was like watching it, Jarvis. Like I couldn't turn away because I was like, I'm taking notes, checking the box. Okay, we got Dirty South. Okay, we got
Mhm.
Midwest.
East
Okay, we got
Coast,
West
Woo,
Coast. Okay, we got
everybody,
East Coast.
Kim, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, no Kim.
Short was in there. Like,
Yeah,
why was Nelly in
that
there?
was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. Why
Yeah,
was Nelly in there? Like, why was
because you
Nelly in there?
gotta give Midwest love. Because think about it, you got St. Louis and you got Chicago and Detroit. Now they could have put Big Sean in. I probably would have
Oh,
said Big Sean over Nelly, but you
it
got to
might
get
have been Nelly.
somebody, and
It
you
might have been
can't get
Nelly.
Kanye because he's crazy. So
Yeah,
you got to get
good luck
somebody
on that
from the
one.
Midwest. So I thought
All right.
not a bad
Okay,
choice.
Nelly picked up the phone. All right, okay. All right, I
Yeah,
got you.
exactly for the Midwest. He picked up the phone for the Midwest. The only thing they forgot about was, well, you could say Luke, but then again they got Rick Ross on the outro.
Rose?
So
Yeah,
yeah,
can't
they
go
got
wrong with that.
that
You know what
was
I
killer
mean?
too. That
Yeah,
outro was killer too. So
absolutely.
yeah,
So,
it did its thing.
well, we're not going to miss tomorrow, though, as we get ready for a Tuesday edition of ATL Day One. How about
Yeah.
this? Ryan Nielsen speaks. We'll speak on it tomorrow. So make sure you guys come back here. Come back here on Tuesday for the next episode of ATL Day Ones. We want to say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, why don't you make Locked On Sports Today your second listen of the day? They got all the biggest news in sports, all the information that you're looking for when it comes to the big stories of the day. They also have Take of the Day. So, yeah, where they're responding and they're always talking about, sure, the NBA trade deadline, because guess what, guys? It is just the beginning, and we'll know there's going to be more and more news as the week goes along. Now, if you don't do anything else in today, I think this is probably about as fitting as it's going to get, right? Make sure you share love, show love, and most importantly, spread love.